Hello and welcome to VMTV Chronicles. My name is Kyle Diamond and my guest this episode is Mr. Aaron Aby. Aaron, if you're not familiar, has an incredible story that is truly inspirational, and I'll let the man himself tell it because you just got to hear it. Aaron has recently signed with Cage Warriors. We are awaiting his debut fight announcement, but like I said, I'll let the man himself tell you all about it. Aaron Aby. Right, let's start at the very start. When did you first get into training martial arts?
Got into training probably when I was about, I'm going to say 15. I was playing football at the time at a professional club, so maybe a bit older actually, 16. And my uncle started taking a mixed martial arts class for cystic fibrosis twice a week. So all the proceeds from the classes went to cystic fibrosis. So I'd play football in the daytimes and then go to the classes there a couple of nights a week, and then 2 become 3, 3 become 4. Can I do extra? Just got into it that way, really.
What kind of, because like normally when I'm talking to a fighter and I'm talking about when did you start training MMA, it's completely different for you. Obviously, being born with cystic fibrosis, what kind of did that make it? I'm assuming it's a lot more difficult for you to just take something on like that. So how was your viewpoint with that in terms of approaching sport?
To be honest, it wasn't any different, just because I think from an early age, like I had a dad who played rugby at a high level, and I was like always doing sport from probably like the age of 5 or 6. Like every sport going there. Like I played football, did athletics, I did cross country, I even played roller hockey, tennis. So it was just one of those things. I was always keeping active from an early age, and then like sometimes have friends round and we used to just get a pair of boxing gloves and beat each other up in the front room and stuff. So like starting that, it was no really different to me. Just something that I really took to and really enjoyed.
Was there a point for you where, because like you just listed all those sports that you played, was there a point where you realized that MMA was the one?
I think definitely, and it sort of got forced on me as well, because like with football, it's up to the coach to pick you. The destiny's not always in your own hands. But with MMA, it's based on your win record. So it's all down to you. It's an individual sport. You don't have to rely on your teammates to perform on the day or a coach to pick you. And like I said, I was playing football at a professional club in the day and then going training at night. And it was just something that I was like, oh, can we do more? Can we do more? And it was just a class for charity at the start. Obviously cystic fibrosis, which I've got, but just really took to it that way.
Like you just said, with it being such an individual journey and stuff, before we get to the second part of your career, what was that period of competing like from then on until 2017?
So I just started fighting out of the with my uncle's class. I just started fighting out of there first, and like my first competition was one of those no headshots, 2 fights in one day sort of things, and then built up from there, from like the old semi-pro rules, which was headshot standing, no headshots on the ground. And then I think it got to a point where my uncle was working full time and he was just doing the class for charity at the start, where I was like, listen, you need to find a full-time gym. So that's where I moved over to the MMA Academy in Liverpool under Jason Tam, and then just built up from there, really. Started training from there, just working up that way and turned pro, fought through pro, and then obviously I've had ups and downs throughout my life, which has stopped me fighting, but then always got back in there and carried on.
Well, like you said, like obviously for people who don't know, diagnosed with testicular cancer in 2017. Am I right in thinking, because I read this somewhere, but I thought that's a crazy part of the story that I need to check with you, that in between the scan and the diagnosis, you won a fight?
So no, what had happened was I had pain up until the fight, and I'd been to get checked out because I thought maybe I took a body shot in training.
Right.
Carl Prince took me boxing one day to box with some of the pros in Manchester, and on the way home, I remember I had to pull over because I was in pain, and I rang him. I was like, "Did I take a body shot?" And he was like, "No, mate, I don't think so." Like, I was like, "I'm in real bad pain here," and even though I said, "Was it like a low blow or anything?" He was like, "No, not that I know of." He's like, "You might have, but I don't remember taking one either." That's why I rung him, and then I like got home and I tried to suck it up for a bit, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to go to A&E here." And it was like 4 weeks out from the fight, and I've gone to A&E, and they've said, "Oh, we think you've got an infection. Take these tablets, and if it doesn't go away, come back in like 2 weeks." So I took the tablets for the infection, supposedly was an infection, and carried on training. And I'd have days where the pain would come, go, and then in the week up to the fight, it was getting quite bad. But obviously the fight's coming up, so I didn't want to go to A&E or have to pull out or anything. And like the pain started like getting into my back and stopping me sleeping and stuff. And I just thought, oh, maybe it's stress related from the fight coming. I managed to get through the fight, won the fight, and then I've gone back to get tested again, and then that's when they've gone through the scans and they was like, "Oh, you've got cancer." So then that was the journey to recovery after that.
During that journey to recovery, which obviously I've seen you say about how that the idea of keeping on fighting in terms of professionally was something that you really helped during that time. Is that right? Like, was that, because I must be, obviously I can't put myself in your shoes, but must be so difficult to think about something like that. But at the same time, from reading what you've said in the past, it was kind of like a constant thing to
yeah. I think people are happy when they have a purpose, and a purpose they enjoy, and I think that almost gets taken away from you when you have cancer, and you need to find those things that motivate you to fight the condition and to fight the disease. And obviously I'd gone from training every day, twice a day, to not being able to train, get up and like a lot of times be on your own and stuff. And like you have to have things that you hold on to, things that you can fight for. And that was one of my things, was like I would say all the time, like people would come to me and like, "Oh, he's not going to fight again," or "We don't know if he's going to make it out the other end." And a lot of conversations I had with people around me that was one of my motivations and my goal, that this journey wouldn't be over for me. I wouldn't be healed or cured from cancer until I'd step back in and competed again. That was one of the goals for me.
What was that like then, getting back in the cage in 2019 for the first time?
I think no matter what happens in my career now, even if I was to become UFC world champion, nothing would beat that moment for me walking back in there. It was a main event on UK Fighting Championships, and like some of the crowd had left by then, because obviously amateur events and local events, you stay for your own fighters. But I'd sold like over probably around 150, 200 tickets. So when I was walking into the cage and Brian Lacey called me out and spoke about some of my journey on the comeback, walking into the cage and seeing people who had gone through that journey with me was probably the most proudest moment I've had in my life. And I don't think anything will beat that, because like the night on the result on the night was a draw, and it probably wasn't one of my better performances, but it wasn't about the result that night. It was about everything else that me, my family, my partner, and everyone had gone through to get me back in there, and the journey we'd had. And that was like what I'd always say. I'd say it wasn't over to me until I get back in there. And like at times getting told that you don't know if you're going to come out the other end, or being told you need to prepare your will, and then having conversations with people around me, and I would say, I'm going to be back competing again. And they'd be like, yeah, you're going to be back competing again. It was a collective effort, and being able to walk back in there and compete again and see those people who've been through that journey with me, even like my physio, everyone, I could see them in the crowd as I made that entry. I had like tears in my eyes before the fight. That was probably the best moment of my career.
That's incredible, mate. Just to finish on Cage Warriors, because you've recently signed for Cage Warriors, and in a way, it's like a beautiful ending to that chapter of your life. Because am I right in thinking that Cage Warriors had reached out to you during your treatment?
Yeah, so that was one of the reasons behind me signing for Cage Warriors, is that they'd offered me a date to fight while I was ill. And I remember I was in the hospital bed. I was actually having chemotherapy at the time, and I was on my own. I was on like 20 hours on, 4 hours off, and like I was hardly like replying to any messages or anything. And one come up off Ian Dean. I was like, oh, what's this guy want? And I had a look, and he was offering me a date to fight, and I explained the situation to him, and he said to me, when you get through this, there'll be a pair of yellow gloves waiting for you. So that was again another thing that I always held on to, and like one of the reasons I signed for Cage Warriors, because I'd visualised myself getting back in there wearing those yellow gloves and being able to compete under the Cage Warriors banner.
That's amazing, mate. Well, I can't wait for your Cage Warriors debut. Like I said, we'll chat again when you got a fight announced. Thank you so much for your time, man.
No problem. Thank you.
Sweet. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, right. Cheers. Thanks.
Catch you in a bit, man. Thank you for joining us for this episode of VMTV Chronicles with Aaron Abbey. You can check out the previous episodes of the series featuring Brendan Locklane and Birmingham's Aidan Lee. They're up on the channel right now. You can also check out episodes of The Violent Mike, which drop every Friday at 8 PM. Subscribe so you don't miss any of that good stuff, and I'll catch you in a bit.